Thanks for joining us, and welcome back to the Watchman on the Wall podcast. Periodically, we'll bring you true stories of angelic encounters, heavenly visitations, near-death experiences, as well as modern-day prophecies that are relevant to us today. When we come back, we'll begin our next episode. If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. And here's the best part, it's completely free. Anchor has a creation tool that will allow you to record and edit your podcast. This can be done right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you. This will allow it to be heard on Spotify, Apple, and many more. Now you can even add a song from Spotify to your podcast. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. So take a minute to download the Anchor app or just go to anchor.fm to get started. Hello again and welcome back. Are we about to be involved in a war with Russia? Not just any war, but a nuclear war anytime soon. Well, we know the prophecies say, and we've covered this before, that we will be involved in a war with Russia, which would result in the United States being hit with nuclear weapons from Russia, as well as being invaded. I originally heard about this prophecy back in 2008 from a priest named Father Andrew Wingate. Now, at the time, I had a hard time believing this and even imagining how it could come to pass. But as time goes by, some of these things are starting to come into focus. Now, today, Stan Johnson is going to talk about some of these prophecies. However, he's also going to cover many of the news items and some of the things that are happening now that could lead to this event. Many of these things you won't hear on your nightly news. So here now is Stan Johnson with an update on the war in Ukraine and how it could escalate into Armageddon.
Welcome to the Prophecy Club. Our topic today is America, Russia, Finland, Romania, Belarus, Poland are all preparing for war. Not just any war, specifically nuclear war. Now, I need to explain what happened. So I just got back from Saudi Arabia, and I haven't told you guys that I was going, but Leslie and I went. We went to Mount Sinai, and I've got some amazing things to tell you from what I saw, but that's for another day. Right now, it is extremely important that I give you some of the most important information that this ministry has put out in 30 years. You know, when you get America, now just look at what it's saying. America, Russia, Finland, Romania, Belarus, Poland, all. These are nations that are preparing not for just any war, specifically, they're preparing for a nuclear war. So let's get into it. Daily Mail, not exactly what you call a prophecy place, okay? It says Biden says the U.S. has contingencies that if Putin uses nuclear weapons, okay, that's kind of like drawing a line in the sand, saying, I dare you to step across that line. So if Putin uses nuclear weapons, the war could end in Armageddon. Well, that's what I've been saying. I've been saying February 22nd of 2022 started World War III that will not stop. It will not conclude until Jesus returns on the Feast of Trumpets at the seventh trumpet. So there you go. I mean, how much more clear does it have to be before you start believing it enough to send it out to your friends? I'm getting some emails saying, Stan, you don't understand. My friend, I can't send this out to my friends. You got to understand, look, they need to understand. What they do with it is not your problem. whether you lose them as a friend is not your problem. If you're watching this right now, you are a watchman. And if you are a watchman, go read Ezekiel 33:6. It says, if you do not blow the trumpet, when you see the sword come, their blood is on your head. Go read it, Ezekiel 33:6. So Biden is openly saying that the U.S. has contingencies, in other words, they're preparing, that if Putin uses nuclear weapons, the war could end in Armageddon. How much more direct do you have to be? And he says the Russian leader has acted brutally. Okay? You know, you heard the old saying that says, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. Biden is not keeping our enemies closer. He is throwing words at our enemy. He's causing the Russian bear that is already angry at America to get more angry. It says the Russian leaders acted brutally after killing civilians with missile strikes. Well, the whole point of Russia, again, now I know there's some good Ukrainians out there, but Ukraine is the home of the Moloch and Baal worshippers. It is the home of the Nazis. And he was going in, according to several different sources, to denazify, in other words, the people, the spirit that was behind the killing of the Jews, behind World War II, and killing of millions of people. That Nazi spirit is still in Ukraine, and Russia reportedly was going in to remove it. And of course, that's why Americans on our side, because the Moloch and Baal worshippers are now controlling America like they do, unfortunately, most of the countries of the world. However, let me move on. We got lots to cover tonight. Next headline, head of Belarus, KGB, the West is considering the use of nuclear weapons against the country and the Russian Federation. Russians are not stupid. Remember, Russia wins most of the chess matches in the world. They are not stupid. They are very smart, and they know the truth. Now, maybe our 6 o'clock news is not telling us the truth, but they have the truth. According to our data, which we obtained from military political circles of the West, they monitor too, they believe in no case should they lose Ukraine. In other words, America is willing to go to nuclear war over Ukraine. Therefore, the possibility of using nuclear tactical weapons is being discussed by America, among other things which are created for direct aggression against our country, meaning Russia, and against our allies. Russia and Belarus, and now Ukraine that has now become part of Russia, they're all preparing for war against America, and they're not the only ones. This is wait here, let me just read it. Here, let's back up. Here's what it says. Russia issues civil defense instructions to the entire population. School children in every single city in Russia brought home official government notices today telling families what to do in civil defense emergencies like radiation. Poster boards are now going up in mass transit stations, at city halls and shopping centers with the exact same message. This is actually a copy of what they're putting up. Now, to the right has all of the text. I'm not going to read all of it, but if you want to pause, you can stop and read the whole thing. It says, this is a procedure that you should follow when you hear the emergency go signal. You should pass this on to your neighbors. You should do things like use loudspeakers, sirens, bell, radio, howls from businesses and vehicles, phone, text messages, mobile and sound amplifying devices, whatever you got to do to get the word out. What do? You're supposed to turn off your lights, gas, water heaters, close windows, doors tightly, cover gaps around doors and vents with a wet cloth, use personal protection equipment. Russia is preparing for a nuclear war. Now, how about America? Not us. We don't have any fallout shelters. We don't have any potassium iodate pills, which, by the way, if you go to prophecyclub.com, I think we just got a new shipment in. Potassium iodate pills. Anyway, let's go on. So Russia is openly preparing for war. So what I'm about to play is the New York nuclear PSA that tells citizens in New York what to do in case of an attack.
So there's been a nuclear attack. Don't ask me how or why, just know that the big one has hit, okay? So what do? There are 3 important steps that I want you to remember. Step 1, get inside fast. You, your friends, your family, get inside. And no, staying in the car is not an option. You need to get into a building and move away from the windows. Step 2, stay inside. Shut all doors and windows. Have a basement? Head there. If you don't have one, get as far into the middle of the building as possible. If you were outside after the blast, get clean immediately. Remove and bag all outer clothing to keep radioactive dust or ash away from your body. Step 3, stay tuned. Follow media for more information. Don't forget to sign up for Notify NYC for official alerts and updates. And don't go outside until officials say it's safe. All right, you've got this.
Just this week, the country of Finland told its citizens to get potassium iodate pills, which I think you can get at prophecyclub.com, to take a radiation emergency. Okay, in other words, you take these when there is a radioactive event close to you because the radioactivity settles on everything. It's like a powder. You can't avoid it. Even if you stay inside, you can't avoid it. And it goes in, it kills your thyroid. What potassium iodate does is it goes in and it floods your thyroid with good iodine. Hopefully, the plan is to keep the bad iodine out. Because if your thyroid dies, so do you. And it's like cheap. It's a cheap fix, $20 a person, okay? prophecyclub.com, go check it out. When the Russia-Ukraine thing went hot, Romania knew what was coming and began handing out potassium iodate pills to its citizens. Poland is doing the same thing. So that's Finland, Romania, Poland, and the European Commission. Well, they're digging blast shelters. They're digging bomb shelters. What about Americans? Well, no, we don't need to do that. Well, yes, we do. Matter of fact, we need it more than anybody else. The prophecies say that America is hit and taken out by Russia in 1 hour. Russia drives 2 nuclear missiles and tanks right in front of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. Citizens then chant, listen to this. They chant, this is Russian citizens chanting as they're driving these nuclear missiles in front of the Moscow embassy, U.S. Embassy. They're chanting, Nuke Washington, Nuke Washington. Now, you know, how much more open, how much more of a warning could Russia give us? Russia, if we will listen, is screaming at us, back off, calm down, stop this Ukraine thing, get your people out of Ukraine, stop sending weapons to Ukraine. But America's not listening. I'm telling you, this last election where the communists came in, it's a big problem. It's going to kill America. Let's go on. Further in the article, it says, fury in Russia over the Ukrainian attack on the Crimea Bridge Saturday reached a fever pitch. Oh, you probably didn't even hear about that from the news, but a Ukraine bridge was attacked. Russia drove 2 Yars ICBM missiles on the street right in front of the U.S. the U.S. Embassy in Russia. I can't even talk about it. Right in front of the U.S. Embassy in Moscow. Russian citizens then chanted, Nuke Washington. See, the Crimea Bridge, the longest bridge in Russia, was attacked on Saturday morning by Ukraine, or NATO, or America, using our bullets, okay? The bridge was hit with some type of explosives and suffered significant damage. In other words, the way Russia's looking at this wasn't Ukraine that took out this bridge. This wasn't NATO. This was probably America.
We'll be right back with more of this extremely important broadcast after this. Hello again, this is the Watchman. Please join us each week for an exciting and inspirational podcast dealing with angel encounters, heavenly visitations, near-death experiences, as well as modern-day prophecies that are relevant to us today. So tune in each week and share it with your friends. After all, they could use a little inspiration in their life, too. That's the Watchman on the Wall podcast, and now you can find us on YouTube. Please join us on the Watchman News Network. It's a video news presentation of relevant stories dealing with end-time topics. Just subscribe to the Watchman on the Wall podcast on YouTube, and you will instantly have access to our latest WNN report. That's the Watchman News Network, exclusively found on YouTube. We return now with Stan Johnson with this shocking update, which not only affects Democrats and Republicans, but all America.
America, we officially have a real problem. Clandestine American operations inside Ukraine have been going on since a presidential covert action order was issued by then-President Barack Hussein Obama. President Donald Trump was never told about it. Those operations have now become far more extensive, to the point that the United States is, in fact, a combatant against Russia and Ukraine. I'll read that last one again. Listen carefully. The United States is, in fact, a combatant, an enemy, a combatant against Russia in Ukraine. Prior to and just after the beginning of Russia's special military operation inside Ukraine, the U.S. CIA and the U.S. Special Operations Forces were operating inside Ukraine. Their operations are now far more extensive than they were early in the war, when the U.S. intelligence officials were fearful that Russia would bulldoze over the Ukrainian army. There is a much larger presence of both CIA and U.S. Special Operations personnel and resources in Ukraine now than there was at the time of the Russian invasion in February. Several current and former intelligence officials have all revealed this. So, when Russia began its attack on Ukraine, the agency believed the Ukraine would be smashed out of existence within a week or two. So, Biden pulled U.S. forces out. But within months, the Biden administration sent the clandestine assets pulled out of Ukraine back into Ukraine. The military and the intelligence officials said one U.S. official insisted that the CIA only conducted a partial withdrawal of its assets when the war began, and that the agency never completely left, meaning when Russia is fighting Ukraine, what is coming back at Russia is not Ukraine. What's coming back, what it's saying is, right now, NATO and America are killing Russian soldiers. Right now. Did you get that? American, NATO bullets and personnel are killing Russian soldiers. Right now, if Russia were to come and hit America with a surprise nuclear attack, they would be able to say, wait a minute, they attacked us first. They hit us first. And you know what? They would be correct. Now, let me refresh your memory. This is some of the most important thing I can tell you. It was 1987 the first time I heard this. Dmitri Duduman was told by the angel Gabriel, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America, started by the communists. Some of the people will start fighting against the government. Now, let me explain what I think that is. I think because the communists stole the 2020 election and put a bad guy, put a communist in. This is the way I'm talking in terms of this prophecy. Put a communist in. And then when the good guys kick out the communists, then it says some of the people start fighting against the government. Yes, there's going to be dancing in the street by some people when they put the good guys back in. But you have to understand that the bad guys are really more numerous in America than the good guys. And they are, like they told Benjamin Fulford, we rule this planet for thousands of years, and we'll destroy it rather than give it up. Same thing for America. We have ruled America for thousands of years, more like 400 years, but they are willing to destroy America or anything else that gets in their way. These people are the Moloch and Baal worshipers. They are ruthless. Blackmail, bribery, sex trafficking, human trafficking. They are the worst of the worst of the worst. The most evil people that Christians can't even wrap their head around. We cannot understand that someone is willing to kill another person, eat their flesh, drink their blood. We can't seem to get that into our thick skull. No one could be so evil. It pleases their God, Lucifer. He comes not but for to kill, steal, and destroy. The fall of America will start with an internal revolution in America, started by the communists. Some of the people, in other words, some of the evil people, will start fighting against the government. They won't accept that the good guys kick out the bad guys. The government then will be busy with internal problems, trying to overcome things like electric stations being blown up, maybe dams being blown up, radio and TV stations being blown up, maybe entire residential housing districts burned, all kinds of fires started. Just a matter of fact, I'll try to get in the next couple of programs, but there was an article, several articles came to me that they have been handing out thousands of cell phones to the people coming up from the south over our southern border. Why would they give them cell phones? I'll tell you why they give them cell phones. They say, here you go, we got your phone number, and you're free to come into America, but if that cell phone rings, you answer it. If that cell phone tells you to go someplace or something to do, you do it. Okay, now what might it be? I'll tell you, now I do not know. Okay, I don't have any inside sources, but my guess is that cell phone would ring and say, we need you to show up at this and such address. They're put in a bus, they're taken out for military training. We're going to teach you how to shoot this weapon. We're going to teach you how to blow up bridges. We're going to teach you how to start fires. We're going to give you some amazing technology, and you're going to do it. Or you're going to go back to your country. Oh, anything but I don't want to go back to my country. So all of a sudden, some of the people start fighting against the government. Makes very big sense. The government will be busy with internal problems. Them from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and two of the countries he couldn't remember will attack, which, by the way, I'm pretty sure that one of them is Venezuela, and the other one is Afghanistan. Did I say that right? No, Iran, Iran. Central America, Mexico, and two of the countries will attack. The Russians will bombard America, and America will burn. Now, then December 10 to 14 of 2001, Terry Bennett comes along, the same angel, Gabriel, visits him, basically says the same thing. See, the Bible says in the mouth of two or three witnesses, let a thing be established. So when you got Dimitri Duduman that sat on the electric chair twice, and he's saying it, that already, in my opinion, that's credible. But now we have Terry Bennett come along. He says, while we'll have a fractional government, the military will step in and seize control of the federal government. Well, la-di-da. Here it is. It's another internal revolution. So now we have two people saying internal revolution. You'd call it a coup, but in all honesty, it'll be to help our nation. That's why the military will step in. That's right. They try to step in. They do step in. They try to fix the nation, but there's too much evil in America. Then Jack Rigney comes along. He also has a dream. That's three people. Remember, the Bible says the mouth of two or three witnesses, let a thing be established. So it means, doesn't make any difference whether you know Dimitri or you know these people or you like them. Maybe you don't like them. Doesn't make any difference. When you have three people saying the Lord said, and as the Lord said the same thing, the Bible says you're to believe it. So I said, I saw an armored battalion of tanks, Humvees with roof-mounted machine guns, and armored personnel carriers with cannons go to the Capitol, the Supreme Court, and to the White House. Army personnel disarmed all the Secret Servicemen, guards, police guarding those buildings. Then they went back in and took all the things that they wanted, all the evidence. He saw the military take temporary control of the nation to arrest the evildoers and the wrongdoers, but see, that's what's going to cause the problems. In other words, what we're looking at here is the preparation for the attack on America. Now, here's some good news. How soon is the attack? I'm going to say it is not this year. It's not immediate. Here's why I say that. It was April 15, 2002. My wife, Prophet Leslie Johnson, had a dream. And of the 5 people on the planet with a beating heart that I believe hear from God most accurately, she is number 1 on the list. She said that she was told that Arafat would go into the hospital. At the time, Arafat wasn't even allowed outside of his compound. But we put it out anyway. Yet, 2 years later, 11/11/04 at 3:30 a.m., Arafat died in the hospital just as she was told, which validates the rest of the prophecy. She was also told that Israel will give the Palestinians a state. The Palestinian state would be a temporary measure to allow the Israelis time to strengthen their military. Then oil will be discovered in Israel. I wonder who will discover that oil. The oil will make the Jews willing to fight for the land. In my opinion, the oil also will give the finances to Israel to be able to build up their military. Then Israel and America will go against most of the rest of the Arab world. Then, January 22 of 06, the Lord spoke these words. The first line was the audible voice. The rest of them she heard in her heart. But difference between the audible voice is whether you hear it in your ears, whether you hear it in your heart, you still hear words. So what she heard was, number 4, Israel refuses help to America. That she heard with her ears. Then the rest of them she heard in her heart. But she still heard words. Now this is the order I believe that they will come to pass, but we do not know necessarily the exact order. The order she was given them was, Israel refuses help to America. Omer ushers in Palestinian state. You should be writing these down. Catastrophe hits America. One of America's greatest times of need. Israel is attacked. America sends troops. Chaos reigns as Americans protest help to Israel. Then she heard my voice, quoting Dimitri Duduman, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution. Now, I want to believe that that's fairly close to the order, meaning I want to believe that the internal revolution, all of these 6 headlines, were a precursor to the 7th headline. In other words, all of the other 6 events happened before the Russians attacked. But it could be that the first one is the internal revolution. I don't think so, but I'm only saying we don't know the order that it takes place. Now, as a further confirmation, Chris Reed comes along March 25th of 2022. He has a dream. He sees an angel standing in front of him, takes a $50 bill, and he tears off 1/3 of it. Then people start coming to him and handing him newspaper headlines. These were the newspaper headlines. Further confirmation. U.S. dollar drops 30% in value. Subtitle, Middle Eastern oil strikes deal with China instead of the U.S. That could be that they start selling, Saudi Arabia might start selling oil in yuan as opposed to U.S. dollars, which would crash the dollar big time, quick. Then food shortage crisis as wheat and bread imports are at a stalemate. So then the angel appears in front of him again with a $50 bill, which now he tears in half. And people started handing him more newspaper headlines. And the headlines read, riots and civil unrest as citizens demand entitlement checks as an earthquake happened under my feet. That's probably the big earthquake going up the Mississippi River Valley, which we've talked a lot about. Let's go on. Then a major earthquake hits the middle of the U.S. In other words, I skipped one. Let me back up. Israeli and Palestinian 2-state solution reached. I have like 8 people that have been shown that, no, it's 12, that if America splits Israel, let me say it again, I have 12 people that say that if America splits Israel, God will split America, and he'll do it by a meteor hitting, and we've talked about that, so I'll move on. But that's probably the meteor hitting. In other words, when America splits Israel, it's pretty close to done for America, which is why you got to join fast gap so we can pray against this stuff from happening. Yes, we can at least get a soften and delay what we can't pray away. Israeli and Palestinian two-state solution reached. Major earthquake hits the middle of the U.S. America in pieces. Subtitled, More States Secede from the Nation in Rebellion to the Federal Government. Then, the Internal Revolution. The next headline was, U.S. military takes charge as uncertainty looms over the federal government. Then he saw a new dollar bill like a cell phone with George Washington's face on it, new currency for a new, renewed nation.
Well, there you have it. It's quite shocking, I know. But will this happen this year, or will it happen at all? Well, I kind of agree with Stan that I don't see it happening this year, because we're already into October. But next year, well, that's a different thing. We'll let you decide. Hello again, this is the Watchman. Please join us on our new video channel called Encounters from Beyond the Veil. It's the same exciting content as our audio podcast, but in a shorter, but yet a video format. Also, please subscribe so you won't miss any of our episodes. That's Encounters from Beyond the Veil, exclusively found on YouTube. Well, thanks again for listening, and if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends. Any comments or suggestions you may have, you can send to the Watchman on the Wall 2020 at gmail.com. We encourage you to subscribe so you'll always be notified of our future episodes. Well, thanks again, and we'll see you next time on the Watchman on the Wall podcast.